All right, this is our little bonus segment. I'm going to take us right to the pub. Where you're sitting very far away.
Hmm.
Maybe not quite. I'll move him a little closer.
Hmm.
No, too close, too close. Too close. There you go.
Need
All right.
leave room for Jesus. It's good.
That's right. Oh my. All right. So, oh, wonder why there's no sound.
Oh, I hear sound.
Oh,
Do you
you
have
do?
two? Do you have two roll 20s open at the same time?
I do.
That's why.
But that's no.
Um,
I do that every time though.
really?
That
Oh
shouldn't
man.
that shouldn't be the issue.
Yeah, I've always found like if I have
Hmm.
in the same tab or in the same like open thing, if I have two roll 20s open like with two different games, then I'll mess
Weird.
up and
Oh
then
no, I don't have two different games going.
oh oh then I have
It's
no idea.
just
That's
yeah.
weird.
It is
Um,
strange. Well,
your
that's
volume.
fine.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay, cool. I don't really need to uh, to hear it.
Mm.
Okay, so uh, Adam takes you, or Alan rather, takes you around the corner to a little pub, and since it's late afternoon, it's not super crowded yet, but there's definitely some people there having their ales and and they serve some food here too. So he takes you over to a booth where you can talk and sits and he kind of looks at you and says, You strike me as a girl who isn't afraid of strong liquor."
No, and it's something I'm used to, though I will not say I am disappointed, but I was slightly expecting some sort of tea or something, but this is
Nice.
just as nice.
Well, that's fine. Says I've become, I'm ashamed to say, a little partial to gin and tonics in the afternoon.
Mm. Yes, I have a feeling that with a boss like yours, it is sometimes needed.
He says, Mickey's not all that bad, really. He's just always after the next big headline, and that's about it.
Mm. Well, it does seem like his preferred line of work to get the headline and apparently attempt to extort random people.
Oh, pff, he just thinks he can smell someone with money willing to part with it. He's he says he's second generation Irish. He says he says the old habits die hard.
I can imagine. What about you?
Oh, what about me?
Well, why are you here in England?
Huh. Well, that's a good question, actually. You'd have to ask my father, I'm afraid.
Ah,
He,
so he brought you here.
oh no, he didn't bring me, he sent me.
Oh, strange.
He shrugs. He says, I suppose. He thought it would keep me out of trouble.
Talia kind of raises an eyebrow at that. She does order a vodka as well. And
Mm-hmm.
trouble. Um, what kind of trouble?
He says, well, there's all kind of troubles over on my fair island.
Hmm. I see you're avoiding the question.
He says, it just doesn't make for very pleasant afternoon conversation, does it? Political
No.
troubles in Ireland and all.
Hmm. True, but this is definitely the more pleasant conversation that I've had in a while.
Well, I'm sorry for you then.
Yes. It has been a bit well, not really to go into that. That is Again, not quite afternoon tea talk.
He shrugs. He says, "Well, forgive me if you didn't strike me as the dainty type."
Yes, I definitely am fairly dainty and very fragile.
I can see that you're not, Natalia. You're Russian, aren't you?
Uh, the
Yeah,
uh,
yes.
from
That's
the from Russia itself, I actually moved to America a few
oh.
years ago.
So see, you know all about troubles.
Yes, the ship ride was absolutely awful.
Yeah, I suppose it was much more difficult than the short trip I had to take.
Yes, but it was definitely worth it.
Do you ever plan to go back?
To Russia?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's your
nah.
home, isn't it?
It is, well, it's where I was born, but I do not consider it my home at this point.
I guess a lot of emigres don't.
Hmm. No, I definitely am pleased to have left that place. Though America has its own troubles, it's much better.
Sure, sure. That's what I hear.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll
Have you
go there
ever?
someday.
I would definitely suggest it. It's fairly nice, besides some of the people.
It'd probably please my father to get me far, far away, but then I wouldn't be a proper English gentleman like he's hoping, I guess.
Hmm. True. I'm guessing your father is some sort of political figure.
Not exactly. He's actually kind of not political.
Oh?
Well, well, he's an Orangeman. Sides with the crown. Doesn't much like the separatists on my island.
Ah,
Wants to
and
keep
I'm.
me out of it.
Hmm. Though I think you are old enough at least to make your own decisions.
You'd think. I am now, anyway. Sent
Hmm.
me over here for school.
Oh.
I'm sure he's having a fit over there over my choice of work. Muckraking, he called it once.
And really? Oh.
He wants me to do something proper. Journalism isn't exactly what he was hoping for.
You
Waste of
know,
my education, I guess.
Hmm, personally, I'd beg to argue. I also did have a journalist friend. He and I, we traveled quite a bit, so I think that journalism, if you get into the right part of it, is definitely very rewarding.
That Elias fella.
Elias, and well, he was more of an author, but I would say, but also a friend named Benjamin.
Ah, yes. Don't know him. Should I?
No, he. I do not think that he did, unfortunately, too much important work after we did some travels. Unfortunate for him.
Well,
He met
maybe
a
I should
woman.
know him. I'm not sure I'm doing very important work either.
Um,
I'm trying.
well, well, you helped us. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but I think that's important in itself.
Yeah. Well, if I can help, that's great. Don't mind helping a pretty girl. He just kind of winks over his glass and takes a drink.
Yeah, she smiles and takes a drink as well. Was there a reason that you took an interest in me, Alan?
Does a fella need a reason to take an interest in a lovely woman?
Usually, well, no. I guess maybe just looks is about the main thing that draws someone in.
Well,
Normally.
first there's looks, then you get to know someone.
Hmm. Well, is there anything you'd like to know?
Well, I am very curious as to what you're really doing here, what you're after. You seem
Well,
very keen.
yes. Mostly just after finding out what Jackson did and the things that he's attempted to write on before he passed. Mostly
Yeah.
trying to finish his work.
Says I'm afraid I didn't really have many words with him.
Mm.
Seemed like a pleasant enough fella.
Yes, he very pleasant. He did know quite a bit. It was definitely an honor knowing the man.
Hmm. So, you think he had something to do with all these Egyptian murders?
Mm, I think that hmm, he was looking into it at least, and I feel like he made some progress, but
Wow. From what I understood, he'd just gotten to London. I've been trying to find out what I can about that case for a long time and come up blank. I'm not surprised he's found almost nothing after what? Maybe he was here a couple of weeks, maybe more.
mm,
Can't expect to come here for a couple of weeks and solve a mystery.
well, I think he thought at least the crimes here had to do with a bit of a larger issue that's going on. Maybe a bit outside of London itself.
Well, you mean Egypt?
Um, kind of. Not just Egypt. I think it's a bit farther spread than that. I mean, it is Egyptian people
Interesting.
being killed, yes, but
Well, mostly now. Two of them weren't.
what exactly were they?
Well, they weren't exactly the most reputable sorts, the two that died. The two gentlemen, and I use the term loosely, what died. One was a one had no employment as far as anyone could tell. The other was a shopkeeper, but had a bit of a reputation. That one.
Really? Can you tell me more about these people?
Well, I don't know much about the homeless one, but the shopkeeper, what I could find out, nobody really liked him. He liked to flaunt his money over them. He pressed people for their debts. You know, he'd extend them credit on goods at their shop, liked to sell to the poor, and then squeeze them after. Not a very pleasant chap.
No, he sounds a bit awful there. What kind of what shop did they own?
Oh, it was just a general goods shop, the kind of place that poor folk go to get their dailies.
Was it close to the place of some of the other murders, or was it just kind of random almost?
Well, all the murders took place around the Soho area. His shop was not quite there, but close.
And I'm assuming it's closed by now
Oh
with
yeah,
his death.
he left it to no one.
Mm.
It's reverted to his creditors, I'm sure.
Mm. Would be. Have you looked into this for your stories? Seeing if you,
Into the
the
murders
shop,
themselves.
the murders in the shop itself. There must be
Well,
a
I
reason
I
why he was
asked
picked.
people around the shop about him. Sure, that's how I found out what I just told you. I'd never heard of
Just,
the man before.
just asked, not gone to see the shop itself.
Well, the shop was closed up.
Hmm. Well,
Well,
there
that
are.
was that was 2 years ago now.
Hmm. Oh, I mean, if it is still closed, if no one's been in there, there's probably been a few people. There might be a reason besides the fact that he was not a very pleasant individual. Something he maybe kept inside his shop that he was killed.
Yeah, could be. No one around there seemed to know much about why, just that he had grown increasingly nasty and unpleasant in the days before his death.
Mm. Just more tight squeezing, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Or
had a
something
bit of a
else.
sadistic look in his eye, a couple of them said. Seemed to take even more pleasure in squeezing him, threatened
Mm.
him. Yeah, he always apparently made threats, but he apparently punched a couple of people, threatened
Oh,
to break
goodness.
their legs, said he and
Mm.
his mates would come around and get him.
And his mates, huh? And she's gonna, leaning on the table,
Mm-hmm.
tapping the side of her face, seemingly very interested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming no
He
one knew who
he
these mates were.
smiles. He
Hmm?
says he smiles. He, he says, "I guess you're enjoying my journalism."
I am. I mean, a lot of people don't like communicating things such as this, I do find. So when someone's actually willing to talk about it, it's very intriguing.
He says, "Oh, I'll tuck your ear off all day if you listen."
Well, of course. I'm fairly pleased to be in your company, so I wouldn't mind you talking my ear off.
Well, I suppose if it keeps you here, he says, I will have to be getting back or the old man will kill me, but he says, we've got a little time.
Hmm.
And there's always tomorrow.
Yes, I do have quite a bit of time, though I'm not sure how much longer I'll be in London for.
So you don't intend to stay and crack the case, do you?
Well, I do hope to at least maybe find out a bit more. Um, we have
Ah,
spoken to one of the investigators.
he says, I'm just teasing you.
Oh,
He says, oh, you did, eh?
yes, he seems to take the word of Mr. Gavigan very close to heart for a lot of this, I guess because he's an Egyptologist.
Mr. Gavigan?
Yes. Um, from the foundation there, and she kind of tries to remember what it's called, the Penhu Foundation.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. Oh, Gavigan, yeah, I think I heard of him.
Yes, he's a interesting individual. I've got the pleasure of speaking to him.
Is he involved in the case?
Well, if you look back 3 years, he was attacked by a man. He was cursed out by said man, and apparently he's been assisting the police ever since. Though it's been 3 years since the murders started, which is interesting in itself. Having the head above.
You think Gavigan was accosted by whoever's behind these murders?
I don't think he was accosted by whoever was behind the murders because that gentleman, I think, is in an asylum now.
Ah,
Therefore, unless they had, well, it's if it is someone who was part of these murders, it's obvious that it's multiple people who have committed them, as one of them is in an asylum. But then again, I feel that no, I do feel confidence in police work, investigators, stuff like that. So it's interesting that this has gone on for 3 years, no,
I suppose.
with
He
no real
says,
lead.
well, at least not right now, there's not. I, um, he says, Barrington's alright, I suppose. But, Munden now, he seemed to have a better head on his shoulders.
Who?
Little more keen. Oh, Inspector Munden.
A Munden? Who's this?
Oh, You don't know. Well, he was Barrington's predecessor on the case.
Oh, what happened to him?
Well, that's what I wanted to know. He's here 1 minute, gone the next. I started poking my nose into it. I'd kind of started up a bit of a, you know, professional relationship with him about the murders and all. And he'd confided in me that he thought he was getting close, getting some cracks in the, how did he put it? Cracks in the wall,
Mm-hmm.
starting to form. He said, one of these days I'm going to stick my nose through. But, yeah, he just up and disappeared. I asked about it. The police were very hush-hush. Honest,
Interesting.
not sure if I should be telling stories out of school. He smiles. But I did manage to get just a little bit of information. And he orders another drink.
Natalia finishes hers and also does as well. That's... I have found occasionally, it probably hasn't made its way across the ocean to here, but they're mostly because it's more small time, but back, I live in New York, back in the
Big
USA.
city.
Yes. Unfortunately, well, for a while I worked as a librarian, so a little bit less interesting than your line of work. But I did get to work in an asylum for a while, so that was very interesting.
He looks at you a little cockeyed. An asylum, you say.
Yes, I'm a psychologist.
I see. So what am I thinking right now?
I'm not a mind reader, unfortunately. Slightly different. It's
He
more
nods.
reading into words, phrases, things that people say, and analyzing them from there.
He
But don't worry.
he kind of leans it a little closer and says, "Well, then what do you read into the words and gestures I've been making then?"
Can I make a roll for
Sure.
that? Hey.
Um. Well, I mean, he's certainly being very flirty. Um. Let's see. You've been getting the sense maybe he's been stringing this story out and seeing how interested he can make you, mostly just to keep your attention
Mm.
and try to be interesting.
She kind of leans in as well and smiles. Well, it is obvious to me, Alan, that you are fairly attracted to me, but I feel like you've said that already. And
I'm afraid I don't make much mystery of that.
no.
Don't see the
And
point, really.
it's good to be at least forward with one's intentions, I find. But I do see that you at least think your own stories might not be very interesting, therefore you have to tell me and really drag out a lot of this other parts of conversation. But I would say that you don't have anything to fear, Alan, for it's not just the stories that you tell that I'm interested in, but it is also you.
You see him color just a little bit, um, and he kind of sits up again and takes a drink, um, and he says, "Well, uh, I'll not deny it. I do find you interesting,
Hmm.
and the fact that you're willing to come out here after a friend of yours is killed and not just hide in your library. That's That's the mark of a woman with a little backbone.
Well, after how I was raised and some of the things I encountered, I do hope that I have at least a slight backbone, as usually you do not survive the rough winters of Moscow by hiding in a library.
I suppose not. Unless you live in a palace. Of course, I hear they don't have those anymore.
Mm, yet, um, though I do have to ask, I'm not too sure how young you are. And she kind of gives him a look. Um,
How young do you think I am?
hmm, maybe early 30s.
Good thing I'm not wearing a mustache then. I'm only 26.
Oh, oh goodness. Well, I am significantly older, but
Significantly. I can't believe that. I
well,
think you're exaggerating.
about well, not maybe significantly, but 10 years.
He shrugs. An older woman, eh? Hmm. Wonder what my father would think of that.
Well, hopefully you wouldn't think too much into it.
Oh, he'd be very worried indeed. You're not English, you see.
Oh, true. I am a very dangerous woman.
Oh, he's got his heart set on me finding a good English woman. Yes, he does.
Well, sometimes those disappointments need to be broken to a family very, very easily.
Gently, you mean, maybe.
Y- yes, gently.
I suppose.
But hmm, though I do wish to stick around as long as I can, maybe to figure out what has gone on with these murders. As we do think there's a slight connection to what's happening here to what happened in New York. I got a little bit off topic from that.
Well, that's very interesting.
Mm.
Neither of them ever mentioned anything about any connection to America. So that's
Mm.
news to me.
I don't think they really look into it as far as I think investigators go. It's somewhere far away. Of course, nothing can be connected.
Mm, I suppose.
Mm. But with the ability to travel overseas, that kind of thing, I feel like maybe things that are seem not to be connected in terms of these kind of murders. I think it's possible at this point. I mean, the killings that happened in New York are, at least in terms of ritualistic, very similar.
Mm,
Maybe not similar mode of death, but targeting very specific cultures, um, and killing those people, I think are at least similar in a way enough to look at both aspects,
I
if that
see.
makes sense.
Makes sense of a sort.
Hmm. And after 3 years of not being able to solve this, I feel like you need to look at it from all angles.
Well, I'm not exactly trying to solve it.
Mm. I
just
mean, in
just
general,
reporting on it.
of course.
Mahoney's not interested in me solving some murder. He's
Mm.
just interested in getting the headlines out of it.
Of course. I do feel like there's definitely going to be another one this month. Is it a monthly thing?
No, not a monthly thing at all.
Hmm.
Doesn't seem to be any regularity to it.
Maybe there's regularity in the irregularness of the murders. We haven't seen.
That sounds like a fancy way of saying there isn't any regularity.
Maybe, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's something that intrigues me.
Well, that's an interesting thought. Maybe I'll go
Mhm.
back and revisit the dates again.
Well,
See
if
if
you
anything jumps out at me.
if you find anything, let me know, and if I find anything, I can let you know.
Well, now that sounds like a match made in heaven, doesn't it?
Indeed. Though if we don't find too much on these murders, I do know that we will most likely be leaving for Egypt at some point. Thaddeus is a well-traveled individual.
I see.
Mm. But I mean, I have liked London so far. I would not be pressed to come back, depending.
He says, "Well, I assume you won't be leaving in the next 2 days or
Mm.
so."
No, no, of course not.
He says, I'm afraid I'm going to be a bit busy tomorrow night, but perhaps the night after I could take you out for a proper meal."
I'd like that. That'd be nice.
I'll I'll come and get you. Then where are you staying?
What's the hotel called again?
Um, that's a good question. Let me remind myself. The oh, I didn't put the name on it.
Oopsies.
That's a great question. I am sure we
Is it
have
the Ritz or
established what it
something?
is. I believe it is, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just say it's the Ritz. That's funny. I can't remember and I did not label it.
Oopsies.
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
well, it's,
He says, "Oh, fancy."
yes,
He said,
Thaddeus
"I."
is like this. Hmm?
Oh, he said, "Oh, I was gonna say I had no idea librarians in New York made so much money."
I do wish, but it is all paid for by Mr. Pepin.
I see.
Yes.
What? He takes a drink. He says, "What exactly is your relationship with Mr. Pepin, anyway, if you don't mind me asking?"
Oh, no, of course not. We have known each other for quite a few years now. Well, not quite a few. 4, 5.
You can see that when you say that he's trying to hide some kind of disappointment or
Oh.
concern.
She kind of smiles at Alan, but it is purely a friendship of professionalism and also just a friendship in general. As I've known Thaddeus for quite a while, I could not see him being a romantic partner. I know too much about him. It's a bit off-putting.
I suppose that's how it works, isn't it? You
Mm.
gotta marry 'em quick before they get to know you too well.
Yes, exactly. Or else you're just kind of stuck and you just want to leave.
He says, "Well, all right, Natalia. I really ought to be getting back now. But it was
Of
a
course.
pleasure."
Um, yes.
And he says, "You don't mind me speaking in my usual tones, do you?" He said,
No,
"The
of course.
school worked very hard to beat this Irish accent out of me. How'd I do, by the way, when I first met you?"
You did quite well. I was definitely believing that you're a proper Englishman.
Oh, my father would be so pleased to hear that.
Would you like me to send him a letter?
Please. I'll think about that, actually. It might tweak him a bit. Could be
Yes,
fun.
I would be happy to. I can write it in Russian.
Russian. Oh, good lord. Yes. I'm dating a revolutionary, Dad. Yeah, he'd love that. I suspect you're not much of a revolutionary, are you?
No, I don't have time, unfortunately.
Not time or not the inclination?
It's more my interests do not. The time my interests take do not allow me to take the time to be revolutionary. Though if the opportunity presents itself in what I do, then I might take it.
Interesting. Um, you see that he's a little more, his interest was a little more piqued by that than you probably might have imagined. Um, and he says, "Well, so I look forward to seeing you. That would be, oh goodness, that would be Sunday night, wouldn't it?"
Yes. And you are coming to the hotel to pick me up?
"I am. How about I say, would 6 o'clock be too early?
No, 6 o'clock is perfect.
Maybe we could go for a stroll. There's a nice in the garden nearby on the way."
Yes, I've gone running there in the mornings. It'd be nice to see it at night too.
"That'd be great. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Can I walk you somewhere?"
Uh, I think my compatriots are at a nearby shop. I'd like to go there. I can meet back up with them, and you can go back to your work.
All right then. I look forward to seeing you. Take care of yourself, Natalia.
Ah, you too, Alan.
He gets up and puts his little cap on and pays for the drinks.
She finishes off her second one and gets up to follow him out.
Yeah. All right. He takes you out to the street, and you see he actually seems a little awkward and unsure what to do, and he just kind of puts his hand out to shake your hand.
She'll kind of look down at his hand. She'll take it, and she'll actually pull him into a hug.
Okay. he kind of laughs a little nervously, and he says, "Well, it was a pleasure." And he kind of touches the tip of his cap and turns and walks away. But he kind of glances over his shoulder a couple times, smiling at you.
She gives him a wave before heading back to everyone else.
All right, and then you head back,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest, as they say, is history.
There you go.
All right. This is the next part of the little bonus episode about the two lunch dates that happened in Mass. This is excitement at its finest. So, it seems, as I recall, Alice was going to on Saturday, before you guys went to the Egyptian quarter, to call it that, in Soho. You were going to have lunch with your uncle, or at least so you expected him to come by. So I would say you're hanging out at your flat until he drops by, and he does in the afternoon. And that's your Uncle James. There's a knock on the door, and when you go to get it, it is him. And he says, "Ah, Alice, you're home."
Good afternoon, Uncle. And she'll kind of hug him in a greeting.
And yep, he returns the hug. He's not the most demonstrable fellow, but he's not above a hug for his niece.
Yeah. How has your trip to the city been going?
He says, "I suppose it's been going about as well as can be expected." Says, "Just matters of business."
Of course, I understand.
He says, "May I come in?"
Of course, I apologize. And she kind of steps aside, holding the door open for him.
He comes in, and you can see as he comes in, he kind of looks around, taking the room in, like he's assessing.
I've been very busy. I'm sorry for the mess. Yeah, and she's gonna kind of walk around and start picking up a few things and putting books back on shelves and kind of closing the lid like that one box.
He says a young woman your age ought to be practicing her house skills, keeping things neat and orderly.
I know. I'm just. I feel like I'm so close to something with my father's research. I need a little more time.
You can see he was kind of smiling while he said that, and when you mention your father's research, his whole demeanor just kind of changes, which you've seen before. And he says, "Yes, yes, of course, that business." He says, "Is that what you were about yesterday? I popped by to see you, and you weren't home."
Yes, I was at the Penhew Foundation, doing some research. And she's not looking at him as she's saying this. She's just...
And there's a silence. And he says, "I see. So," he says, "what have you been getting up to then, besides research?"
I've made some friends recently, very recently.
Friends.
Yes, friends. Initially colleagues, but we've gotten quite familiar with one another. They're from America. Mostly.
Really?
One of them is Russian.
Russian, you say? How exotic.
Indeed. She's a very interesting person.
I'm sure you can tell me all about her at lunch. If you're hungry, I thought we'd go and get something to eat.
That would be lovely. Thank you. Where would you like to go?
He says, "Oh, just around the corner, I suppose." There is a place where he usually takes you. It's just around the corner. It's not overly expensive or fancy, but it's not a working man's pub either.
Yeah, for sure.
So he waits for you to gather up what you need to go. As he's still giving kind of a critical look around the apartment.
Yeah, kind of feeling the weight of his gaze. She's gonna put one last book on the shelf and grab her bag. All right, let's be off.
And he goes out and takes your arm as you walk through the street and get to the restaurant. Says, "Looks like it will be rain soon."
Yes, it's been dreadful weather lately in the city.
It's always dreadful weather in the city. I don't know how you stand it.
You just need an umbrella, Uncle.
Mm.
And it's not too bad after that.
Well, your aunt keeps telling me. She made me promise to ask you once again if you'd come out and live with us for a while. It's not healthy for a single young woman to be living alone in the city, Alice.
I know, I just feel that I'm so close to something. Please apologize to Aunt Elizabeth for me, but I'll just be a little more time.
Alice, my dear, what could you possibly be so close to? You can see he just kind of buttons up his lip a bit and says, "Well, here we are," and holds the door to the restaurant for you.
She walks in quickly.
And I know it looks remarkably like the hotel dining room, but That will have to do.
Yeah.
So you take a seat, and you get the ordering out of the way, and that sort of breaks that moment there.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was getting a little awkward. Um, and he has an odd habit of, or I guess he's oddly comfortable with silences, which I'm not sure how Alice handles. Um, he can let minutes go by saying nothing and just kind of staring at you and eating.
She's largely comfortable with silences, but not around family.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of make her a little more nervous.
Yep.
And so if he starts pulling that and is just quiet for a while, she'll...
He is, yes, initially. You get the ordering out of the way, and then he just kind of smiles and starts to sort of look around the restaurant a little bit.
So, tell me, how are Walter and Henry?
Oh, they're fine. He says, Walter has found a delightful young lass.
Really? What's her name?
Ellen. She lives nearby.
She sounds lovely.
Well, your aunt likes her, so that's most of the battle, I suppose.
And what's your opinion?
Oh, she seems a nice enough young girl. A bit silly, perhaps, at times. But she comes from a respectable family. How about yourself, Alice? Have you met any promising young men not from America? And he kind of smiles.
I'm afraid I haven't been paying much attention in that regard.
Well, you see, there's another reason why you might consider coming home with me. I can help you with that. I'm sure, actually, your aunt would love to assist you in that endeavor. In fact, she seems to think of little else.
Really? Is she that concerned for me?
Well, you and your cousins.
Please thank her for her consideration and her worry, but I want to... Never mind.
We're about to go on about your research again.
My father's research. If it
Yes,
were
well,
just
you
mine,
seem to
I
have
wouldn't
made
care
it
so
your
much.
own. And I hate to be a wet blanket, Alice, but there are more important matters in life. Your father frittered away many years of his on matters of little consequence, and I hate to see you do the same. You're an intelligent, attractive young woman. You have a future. I'd hate to see you throw it away. And between you and me, it won't be long before you'll need someone to provide for you. The money your father left behind is not going to hold out forever, and I will do what I can, of course. But things aren't quite as well as they sometimes are. All that to say that I think you ought to make it a bit of a more of a central matter for your life to find someone suitable.
She just kind of nods silently for a moment. I understand. Just 3 more months. All I need is 3 more months.
All right, I'll indulge you.
I'll come home.
What do you expect will happen in 3 more months, Alice? Do tell me, enlighten me.
I have grand opportunities on the horizon, and I simply wish to see where they will go.
Very well, I'm listening. Tell me about these opportunities.
My friends, one of them is quite the wealthy man from America, and they are putting together an expedition to Egypt concerning Father's research. I simply want to see that through, and once that is done, I will put away these things and leave it in the past. I promise.
So you, if I'm hearing you right, your intention is to run off to Egypt with a wealthy American on some dig to Egypt.
Wealthy American and 2 others, a scientist and a psychologist.
Sounds a little bit like old Penhew, if you ask me.
I was worried about the similarities, but
Yes,
these
well, he
3 have
didn't come
been-
back, did he?
No, but he didn't stay in Egypt.
He kind of hand waves that. And he says one might learn a lesson.
I understand. I've learned from the mistakes that Penhew has made. I'm not going to go anywhere dangerous. Just pray indulge me. Let me see this through. Let me give it this one shot. And then I will move back.
Alice, I
with
fear you're
you.
regressing.
What do you mean?
Penhew mentioned to me that he'd invited you to go with him, and that he was regretting your decision not to join him. I must say I was secretly quite proud of you for refusing. I thought you had some sense, that you were becoming wise. Now it seems you... different man, different year, but it seems that you are going to let this obsession of yours tip over the top. If you get my meaning.
I did have sense, Uncle. I do have sense. The Carlisle expedition, and Mr. Carlisle himself were a fraud. He simply surrounded himself with pretty women to make himself a harem and go on a fancy vacation. I wanted no part in that. This is legitimate.
Oh, these friends you met, as you said, very recently. These are quite legitimate, you're sure of it?
Far more legitimate than Carlisle.
I wonder exactly how you can tell. He takes a drink.
She just kind of sits in silence for a moment. It's just my intuition. We won't be leaving London for a while longer. I'll have more time to learn who they really are, and if something seems fraudulent or off or unprofessional, I will cancel my involvement and I will move back with you. I understand that I do not have forever, but I want to give it this last try, if I can.
You can see he kind of takes his napkin and wipes his mouth, but you get the sense that he's just doing that to kind of conceal his expression.
Yeah.
He says, Alice, I've indulged you for years now. Your father is gone. He's not coming back. He was a good man, but he threw his life away and did nothing of any great consequence to anyone. He raised you, and that's probably the best thing he ever did. But it's about the only thing of great use he ever did in his life. He says this obsession of his is becoming an obsession with you. I don't quite understand it, I confess. I don't understand what it is exactly that you're after. Do you imagine that if you prove his ridiculous theories that somehow his name will be remembered among the 5 or 6 people in England who care about that sort of thing? Will it get you anywhere? I just don't quite see your end game, Alice. And I'd hate for you to take the path he took. It was not good for him. And you can see his face kind of darkens when he says that.
I consider it a matter of family. Something that needs to be done. You say that other than me, he wasted his life and did nothing, but I think that his research is on the verge of proving something grand. And if I can just tip it over the edge and find the last few pieces to connect it all, then Father will be remembered as a great man, and our name will be remembered as a great name.
You can see by his expression he's not the least bit impressed by any of that. And he just takes another drink and kind of stares off past you, which he has done in the past, which you have always taken to mean he's kind of done with you. He always seems to get quiet after that. And he's not one that likes to argue. So you get the sense he's kind of said what he has to say, and you can see him take a couple of deep breaths.
"3 months, Uncle. 3 months, and then you and Aunt Elizabeth can marry me off to whoever you please, and I will birth babes and raise them and continue our line." But
You sound so fatalistic about that, Alice. Is that do you not see the advantage in that? That could actually perhaps make you happy.
honestly, no, I don't see how it can make me happy. Not when I have such a large hole inside my stomach constantly to give my father a chance.
He, you've never seen him do this, but he actually kind of slams his hand down on the table. He's not looking at you when he does it. And it causes a momentary stir and silence in the restaurant as everyone just kind of looks over and at the sudden disturbance. But unless you say anything, just kind of picks back up again.
Yeah, she's just gonna kind of sit there in shock.
He takes another deep breath. And then his full attention is on his meal.
Yeah. Alice will do the same.
So the rest of the meal is silent unless you want to say something. He now seems to have ended his discussion.
Side GM to player question.
Yep.
Was Alice aware that Penhew was talking to my uncle?
No.
Gotcha. After some time has passed, and they're nearing the end of their meal, and they've just been sitting in silence.
Yeah, things are wrapping up. The check has arrived.
I never realized that you talked to Penhew. I got the sense you hated the man.
I do. I think he led your father down a useless and ultimately self-destructive path.
Then why indulge him in conversation?
I didn't. He approached me.
About what? My refusal to join him?
Yes, he wanted me to convince you to go. Tried to sell me a lot of what you've just been trying to sell me about how it would restore honor to the memory of your father and all that stuff and nonsense. I told him he could stuff it. Don't know why he thought he could make an ally out of me.
Did he say why he was so...
Keen
So
to get you to
interested.
go?
Yes.
No, and
Wow.
I did not ask. I assume he just wanted another little pretty face for his adventures, as you indicated.
Yes, well,
Or that somehow your presence would lend him some kind of credibility. I don't know how these things work among these ridiculous scholars. That's more your area, apparently. He kind of looks at you and a little... There's certainly a look of kind of judgment on his face.
she just kind of...
He's never been very impressed by the intellectual class.
Yeah. She just kind of... doesn't really meet his eye. Is more looking down towards his kind of chest. And nods. Well, perhaps I should learn a lesson from Penhew and realize that you'll never exactly approve of my plans.
You're a grown woman now, Alice, and you're responsible for your own choices. You are my niece, the daughter of my only brother. And I owe it to him to do what I can for you, but I won't try to stop you from following your own path. It's not my place. But I won't sit by and hold my tongue while you do it. And I certainly won't enable you.
She nods. I understand. Thank you. Although it is hard to believe, I appreciate your concern and your words.
He just kind of shrugs lightly and kind of looks off to the side. He says, well, if it looked like rain before, it's certain to start pouring any moment. I suppose we ought to get going. And he rises from the table, pays the check.
Of course, and she'll kind of stand alongside him. Did he have his own umbrella?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Was that any other reason for your visit? Or
Do
were you
I
just
do I
checking
need
in
a
and
reason to see you, Alice? I try to visit you every time I make it to the city. Make sure you're still alive and well.
I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't anything else you were wanting to say to me, but just got overshadowed by
No,
other conversation.
no, I think I said everything I hoped to say.
Very well.
Whatever good it happened to do, but... And he holds the door open for you.
Yeah, and she'll walk out. And once he kind of walks her back to her place, I imagine, is what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And he doesn't say anything again unless you say something.
Yeah, she doesn't say anything.
Okay.
And as they kind of depart from one another, she gives him another hug.
Yeah,
Thank you for meeting with me.
It's a little, yes. He returns the hug, but it's, it's a little distant and cold.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Please give Aunt Elizabeth and the boys my best.
I will certainly convey your wishes and your best wishes, Alice. And he holds the door open for you, for your building. And he says, well, I must be getting on. Good afternoon
Very well.
to you, Alice. And
Good afternoon.
he just kind of tips his hat and walks away.
She kind of
to your flat.
sighs deeply and walks back up to her flat,
Okay.
re-pulling out some of the books that she had put away earlier.
All right. That was your lunch.
We did it!
We did it.